Hello YouTube! Welcome to another episode of Future Metal. In today's episode I'm gonna show you how I recorded, produced and mixed the vocals for my band song called Playtime. Without further ado, let's check out what we're gonna be dealing with today. I'm gonna show you the verse and chorus. Let's do these first and keep going after that.
Lost aware on my pants, she's don't know that withdrawal kicks in, but I don't show. She takes me with oxygen, no, and it's solo. In the night, it goes sideways, I might cry. I just wanna die. In my mind, there's a lie that I'll be fine if I just get high. Listen to me, I just need something to set me free. In my mind there's a lie that I'll be fine if I just get high. I'm scared to fall asleep, so not I lie in bed. I'm dying on a dream, afraid of what I'll say. I'm scared to close my eyes, 'cause I won't sleep too deep. I'm terrified I won't get off. Lights and light on my deep.
Right, so this and a little bit more of that is gonna be what we're gonna be doing today. There's also a few screams that I'm gonna probably show you if there's enough time a little bit later in the song. There's some rap vocals as well. And it's also interesting what I've done with the second verse, because it's kind of like similar to the first verse but like a little bit different. So anyway, you'll see what I mean in a bit. So let's dive into it. So verse 1, let's just solo all of the vocals for the first verse. So these are all my vocal buses, hopefully. Let's take a listen.
Lost aware on my pants, she's don't know that withdrawal kicks in, but I don't show. She can fix me with oxygen, no, and it's solo.
Right, this is the first part of the first verse. Let's see what I've done with the vocals. Let's start, like I said, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the recording process. Obviously I can't go through the recording process now, but I'm gonna tell you what I did and what gear I used. Some people asked that on the first episode of Future Metal, as well as what I've done with the production. So here it goes. So the mic that I used for the song is called Paloozo P67. So this mic is amazing because it's an emulation of another mic called Neumann U67. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's a very like legendary mic, and I chose this mic in particular because it's a tube mic and I love the sound of tubes. Recording with tubes, recording with a tube microphone is not always ideal. And why is that? It's amazing for when you record vocals because it's gonna give you a very rich, like very warm, very wide and like a little bit compressed of a sound. But then if you wanted to record something that's like very rich harmonically, like for example a distorted guitar or like a snare or like cymbals, or like all of these stuff are like really noisy, it wouldn't be a good option because a tube mic has a lot of saturation, and like a sound that's very clean is gonna make it sound super warm, but a sound that's super rich and like harmonically almost like distorted or like too saturated, it's gonna make it sound a little bit like fuzzy or like a little bit too saturated if you're not very careful. But for vocals, this mic is amazing. It's a very expensive mic to have just for vocals, but like in this like studio setup I never record drums, or like I never record guitars with an amp, so I don't need a mic that's cleaner than the one that I've got. So Paloozo P67 goes into my, hopefully you can see that it's not a good angle, but it's a preamp called Pro MPA2 by a company called ART, I don't know how they pronounce it. And what's amazing with this preamp is that, again, it's also a tube preamp. Thankfully with this like preamp you can control the gain, so you can like kind of control the amount of saturation you're getting from the sound. I personally really like it because, again, it adds like extra warmth and like extra thickness and like richness to the vocals. It also has a mode that's like very specifically designed for vocals. It's called, what is it called? There's a button here. It's called Plate Voltage High. So when you enable that, I don't know exactly what it does. I don't know the technicalities for it, but it just makes the vocals sound amazing. And also what's special about this preamp in particular is that I've changed the tubes that were in it. I've tried like a few, but the ones I went with, they're called Mullard. I don't remember exactly which type, but what makes a Mullard tube so special is that these type of tubes, they're called new old stock. So these tubes are very old, which means they're aged and they're like very sweet and pleasant, but you buy them as new. This is what the new old stock is. You buy a new tube that's very old. Like it was constructed like I don't know how many years ago. This makes a difference when you buy a tube. When you buy a new tube and you put it inside your preamp or like your guitar amp or whatever, you need to actually let it on for like a few days. Just like let it run, because like at first, this is how lively tubes are, and this is why they sound amazing as well. Is because when you get them, they sound a little bit harsh, but then after a few days the tone actually changes and it sounds like very sweet and pleasant. And this is what you get, like an exaggerated version of that is what you get when you buy a new old stock tube. I've tried, like a lot of people recommended like Tongue Soul or like, I don't remember the brands, it was like a couple of years ago back when I bought it. But a few different people recommended different stuff, of which nothing sounded actually good. And like I had to, because it takes a while, like I said, for the tube to like smoothen up, I had to like do tests for like weeks to see which tube I liked. And in the end, I decided I like Mullard new old stock. Anyway, that about the preamp. And then, so Paloozo P67 goes to my Pro MPA, goes to my Universal Audio Apollo Twin Duo. There's no need to talk about the Apollo, like they're very well-known interfaces. And this is the setup with which I recorded Playtime. By the way, if you want to check out the whole song that I'm mixing right now, is from my band October Ends. Like I said, it's called Playtime. You can find links in the cards, the description, the title endings, or whatever. We put out an album as well. Take a listen, let me know what you think. Would appreciate it very much. Right, so let's see what I've done on the vocals, production and mixing wise. Like I'm gonna be blending the two, because like it's a weird line as to where like what is production and what is mixing. So I'm gonna be doing both at the same time. Hopefully it will all make sense. Right, so for this vocal, let's take a listen to it one more time because I've talked loads.
I still wear on my pants and she don't know that withdrawal kicks in, 말을 던져. She can fix me with oxygen now, and it's all.
I know what's the first thought that pops into mind.
This is not metal.
This is clean vocals, there is no screaming.
This is so old.
To you, boomer, I say, get the f fuck out. To everybody else who wants to learn, I'll explain what's the process behind this vocal. Right, so singing wise, which is very important to know, like as a producer and not just only as an audio engineer, sometimes you'll need to be able to give direction to like your client or like your bandmate or like the person you're recording with anyway. So this vocal is very soft. The whole verse is like, if you take a listen to the original song, you see that the whole verse is like very dark. It's very much like trap, like very modern, like trap and R&B type of verse, I guess. The vocals are so airy on this part. I was like almost like whispering this part when I was singing it. So I'm saying all of that because it's nice to know, other than like the technicalities of the audio, it's nice to know the technicalities of like the vocals, I guess, like the voice. What I've done processing wise, let's go have a look. I'm gonna loop this. I'm gonna turn everything off. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and there's a lot of buses as well.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That withdrawal kicks in, mad at on show. She can fix me with oxygen now. I'm solo.
Right, so the first thing that I have on this channel is a Metatune. A Metatune is a plugin similar to Autotunes by Steven Slate. Real quick, I'm just gonna say it's just like it's pitching my vocals, and I have a very fast setting to it because, like I said, the vibe that I was going for this verse, like not all of my vocals are that Autotune. Like on the chorus or like other songs, my vocals aren't that Autotune. But for this I was going, like I said, for a trap R&B, modern trap R&B vocal. So very fast setting. Obviously you need to set the scale and that, and this is what this plugin does. Then there's a channel from Softube. It's like a console channel. It has equalizers, compressor, it has a gate. This one has a really nice section that like consoles normally don't have, and it's like kind of like a transient designer. So you can either add or remove punch, which would be attack in a transient designer thing, and then there's also the sustain, which is self-explanatory. Let's A/B this vocal with and without the channel and the auto-tune. This is without.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That withdrawal kicks in, mad at on show. She can fix me with oxygen now. I'm solo.
Right, so you see it adds like a little bit of warmth. There's a little bit of compression. There's no EQing. There is some sustain that I like adding on the vocals because it just drags the tails of the vocals and it makes like the vocal like sound bigger, like in terms of like body and in terms of like length, I guess. It just makes it sound a little bit bigger. Next plugin is a Pro MB. This is a multi-band compressor. I'm using that to only get, not get rid, that's wrong, that's the wrong word. I'm using this to just tame like the low end of the vocals, like the fundamental like resonances. So you'll see what this one does as well.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That withdrawal kicks in, mad at on show. She can fix me with oxygen now. I'm solo.
You can see, I don't know if you heard, I hope I changed the audio recording software, by the way. I hope this one sounds better because like previously I was recording in mono and like not in very good quality. So hopefully you'll be able to tell the different like nuances this plugin offers. Yeah, it basically just, like I said before, it just tames the low end of the vocal. It's not doing too much, but it's not doing too few. Like you can see there's like -3 to like -4.5 dB of gain reduction on that specific area, which is from, what is it from? Like yeah, 80. There's not really 80 hertz on this vocal, but it's doing shit up to 328 hertz. So it just tames a little bit those low resonances of the vocals. Next plugin. So this one's just a Pro Q with only one band on. I'm just taking off the nasal resonances of this vocal. It's not very nasal anyway, but because I have like kind of like of a high-pitched voice when I sing.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That fix me with oxygen now. And solo.
Doesn't make much of a difference, just makes my vocal tone, I guess, a little bit more pleasant. This is at about 1.3 kilohertz or 1.2. After this, there is a Soothe. This is an amazing plugin. I don't know if you know what it is. I'm gonna very quickly say what this does. This is kinda like a multi-band equalizer, but at the same time it has loads of bands at the same time. It's not like a multi-band equalizer or a multi-band compressor, like you would choose the frequency that it would be interacting with, but with this plugin it interacts to like a whole area of the spectrum. You can choose which area. You can have it like, for example, not do shit on the low end, not do shit on the high end, or like not do shit on the mid frequencies. You get it. I've set this plugin to do some reduction again on like some nasal frequencies. Where have I set this one? This is around 700 hertz, and oh, this is not about the nasal frequencies, almost at 4K, 3.5K. Let's take a listen to what this one does. A, B, first without, and then with.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That withdrawal kicks in my redemption. She can fix me with oxygen now. And solo.
You've heard what this one does as well. I love this plugin. It's just like it makes everything sound better. Let's move on to the next plugin in my chain, which is Pro C2 by FabFilter. Amazing company, amazing plugin. I have it set, the style is set on vocal. Let's see what I do with let's do a without and a with.
I still wear all my pants and she's done now. That withdrawal kicks in my redemption. She can fix me with oxygen now. And solo.
Alright, so as you can see, it's doing up to like 10 dB of reduction. My aim for that was to be like a very like sort of pop vocal, very like polished and like very compressed vocal, very tame. So very fast settings. It's like kinda, I imagine the compressor like almost like embracing the signal that comes in and just like really fast correcting all of the volume like imbalances. I don't care about the vocal being super like attacky rather than smooth and like compressed in a, you know, nice way, not in an aggressive way. Right, so this is what this one does, and then what's next? Right, so I think this is where like the line is with mixing, and like what I mean by that is like up to here, up to like this compressor, the FabFilter, I've been doing like a little bit of editing, like compression, EQing, compression again, multi-band or like dynamic EQ, compression, whatever you call that. All of these are kind of like mixing, but now the plugins that I'm applying now are more of like the aesthetic that I'm going for this part. So I guess this is what you would call production. What I'm doing with this plugin, this is as you can see, a virtual mix rack by Steven Slate. This is the Brit and Pre FG73 preamp. What I'm doing with this one is literally just saturating the fuck out of this vocal, and I'll explain a little bit why Let's hear without and with. So first without, and then I'm gonna turn it on.
I still wear all my pants and she's done know that withdrawal kicks in my redemption. She can fix me with oxygen now and then solo.
Right, so as you can hear, this saturates the vocals, and this is not a setting that I would use for like a chorus or like a very important like vocal of the song. I actually would do that sometimes. I've actually done that, but it's not a thing that I would regularly do. The reason that I'm doing this is because I was going for like a very dark, what's the word, like a lot of alternative bands do that. I know bands like Paris do that, like Bring the Horizon does that, bands like freaking like Arctic Monkeys do that, Palais Royale do that as well. If you know this band, they're pretty cool. These sort of like alternative rock bands which like have the generally distorted sound but at the same time dark sound, that is the sound I was going for with this part, and this is why I'm using this plugin. So this is more of an aesthetic thing. Like, this is not gonna make the vocal sound better sonically, it's just my stylistic approach. And I chose to put the de-esser after this plugin because like if I put it before, the saturation that goes on is like so intense that like the S's would still like come out a lot. So I'm just putting the de-esser in front of. And then next to last, I have an amazing plugin which I'm going to show you now. This is where all the juice comes in. This is a plugin that, again, like I said at the beginning, that I was going for like an R&B, trap, dark, alternative vibe for the whole verse. So this plugin adds to that whole vibe, and is why I also consider this a stylistic choice and like more of a like production and not mixing thing. This plugin is called Vocal Synth by Isotope. It's really easy to go crazy with this plugin and like come up with like tones that sound like shit. My advice would be to not do too many things with it in a song. Don't use it too many times, and also wherever you put it, don't use too many of its like components. It's like really easy, like I said, to go crazy and get lost with it. So as you'll see, I have very few things enabled. Like all these things, like it says Polyvox, Talkvox, CompuVox, Vocoder, BioVox, Distort, Filter, Transform, Shred, Chorus, Delay, Ring Mod. There's all those pitch things, the voicings here. Very few of them are enabled. I'm going to show you what I've done. So first thing that's enabled, I guess, is the BioVox, not the Polyvox. So the BioVox is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's a weird thing that just adds, let's see what it adds. It's better if you take a listen than me describing it to you. Let's first take a listen to what this plugin does, and then I'm going to show you what each of the components does. So this is the vocal without and then with.
I still wear all my pants and she's done know that withdrawal kicks in my redemption. She can fix me with oxygen now and then solo.
Right, so you can very clearly tell that it adds like sub-octave to the vocal. It makes it sound like kind of like The Weeknd. The Weeknd does that a lot. This is kind of the vibe that I was going for here, like The Weeknd slash Chase Atlantic R&B trap vocals. Other than the octave thing that you can like tell really easily, there's this BioVox thing that's also on. I'm gonna turn the mix all the way up to exaggerate this, and I'm gonna turn the Polyvox off for you to see what the BioVox thing is doing.
I still wear all my pants and she's done know that withdrawal kicks in my redemption. She can fix me with oxygen.
So it pitches the vocal, it makes it sound very robotic, but also it has like this breath function here, which if you take a close listen to the top end of the vocals, you see it's like, it sounds super breathy and airy. Take a listen again. I'm gonna play with it so you can So this is what this one does, and then the polyvox is like simpler. Like character is set to 0 and human is set to 0, so you don't need to know anything about these. Only thing I'm messing with here is the format, and that just messes with the tone of the vocals. Let's take a listen to what this one does as well. I'm gonna put this to 0 and then I'm gonna mess with it again so that you can listen to what it does.
I still wear all my pants, she's done know that withdrawal kicks in, might done shot.
So far it just makes the vocal like a little bit robotic, but it's not doing much. But if I change the format,
I still wear all my pants, she's done know.
So this doesn't mess exactly with the pitch, it messes with the format resonances of its source. There's another thing here, the voicing section, that is messing with the pitch, and it adds like either octave vocals, like either low or high octaves, or like other intervals you can set it to. So I have the format on -4 and I have a sub octave as well. I have the biovox thing enabled and I have the mix on about 45 and then distort on with a little bit of mix, and this is all for this vocal. Let's take a listen again.
I still wear all my pants, she's done know that withdrawal kicks in, might done shot. She can fix me with oxygen now.
Right, so this is it with this plugin, and then the last plugin on this chain is an EQ, which is like, it kind of looks like a radio effect, but it's not, because it's set really high. It's set on like 10K, and the low cut is set on 174 hertz. So this is not doing too much. It is doing stuff, but it's not doing too much. The reason I have this on again is more stylistic and more like of a production thing rather than making the vocal sound better. So the reason that I have this equalizer on is to tame the vocal a little bit on both ends. So this whole verse is like very filtered, and the reason behind that is that I want the song to like gradually build up. Like the intro of the song was very heavy and like full on with like drums and guitars, but then it kind of like strips down to filter drums, a bass, very filtered like pads and like some stuff in the background, and also filtered vocals, so that later in the next part like it becomes a little bit bigger, as I'm gonna show you right now. So I'm gonna show you the vocals first and then the instrumental.
I still wear all my pants, she's done know that withdrawal kicks in, might done shot. She can fix me with oxygen now.
So it sounds a lot more tame when it's on, and then you'll see that on the next section, which is another track, because the settings are different, the vocal becomes like a little bit bigger.
If I just get